Eerily haunting true stories about remote abandoned locations rich in history. Come with us in our travels from state to state, if you dare.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we're gonna help you killed.
Hello? Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you?
Good. My name's Shannon.
I'm Gina.
Yes, and we are here bringing you true crime all the time.
Ooh.
No. Ooh, you like that tagline?
Look at that. I'm sure somebody's used it.
I know. I'm just.
I remember when we were first starting, we were thinking of a name, and I had so many names that I wanted, and they were all taken.
Yeah.
I'm like,
done.
is that why I had so many cool ideas? Because I had really heard them somewhere else, and I thought I was thinking of all these things, and I really wasn't.
Like subliminal. You know, speaking of that, because I'm just going to say, I was watching a show at the dentist. I had my mouth open, and they put, it's really cool though. My dentist has Netflix going on, and they'll put the TV over you so you can watch, and they put the subtitles on, but they had one on a magician. And he did this thing where,
does he ask you what you want to watch?
Yeah, they'll ask you what you want to watch.
Oh, that's so cool.
They always ask you what do you want to watch? But I always say just put on whatever, because I can't really concentrate, because I'm so nervous. But I was getting my crown put on because you guys heard about my emergency root canal last week or the week before. So
I don't think they did.
Well, I had an emergency root canal and it was very painful.
Just in case you didn't hear.
Yeah.
This is after the spider bite. Yeah. This is.
I have not had a good 2023, but you know what? I'm going to take it. I'm blessed. My health is still here. So I was watching this magician that they were showing on there, and he had done this. Speaking of subliminal messages, he asked people, think of a celebrity. I'm going to write it down. And every single person thought of Tom Hanks. They all did Tom Hanks, and every single time it's Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks. Oh. But it's because when he asks them questions, he'll say oh, you know me, I can't even say, oh, I'm going to ask you a really big question. This is going to be a league of your own,
Right. So
he threw
movies
in
that he's
titles.
Been in. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of saying Wilson, he'll go Will, something for I don't know, for example, Wilson sounds like something like will you or something, but he'll say Wilson, we'll send you something. Oh, that's what, we'll send you. So Wilson, he threw in all these movie titles when he was talking to them, kind of just going back and forth, bantering, getting to know them.
And they all chose Tom Hanks?
They all chose Tom Hanks. Subliminal messages. Wow,
they work.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, clearly they do, because I thought I was hammering away at all these cool names. And Shannon's actually the one that thought of 50 States of Madness.
But, we had to look that up, too. We had to make sure that it wasn't out there. You know? And I was surprised that one wasn't taken.
I know, because there's 50 states of a lot of things.
Yeah. And madness isn't a lot of things. But it wasn't kind of used together. Yeah. And in the concept that we're kind of throwing it out there for you. So. Yeah. And if you're visiting our channel for the first time.
Welcome.
Yeah.
We hope you subscribe and like our videos. If you have any suggestions, we love we take constructive criticism. It's we're doing this for fun. Don't take us too seriously.
And bringing us to today's episode where we're going to shoot the shit with Shannon and Gina.
This is just going to be an episode that we are going to discuss, because here's the thing. When we first started this podcast, there were a lot of cases that I think over COVID and during all the lockdown time, true crime became the it thing. So,
and we had a lot of discussions talking about it. And
we
it's
did.
So easy just to talk about it. Just to say, hey, did you hear about this case? Did you hear this? Did you hear that? But when we put it into this format, we're so worried about getting the dates wrong and the facts wrong.
Yeah.
That I think sometimes we don't have that normal back and forth conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we might,
because I might think something and then you might say something different. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So, But there's a lot of, and in the beginning, honestly, I was like, I don't want to do true crime. I don't, maybe just a little sprinkle of it here and there.
Just sensitivity too to the families and stuff. I didn't know how we can present it where, it's
hard, especially with families
people
that are still alive.
Yes.
When you're talking about, people that have passed on, not that you shouldn't still be respectful, but they don't have family members that are going to listen to this or whatever. So that was my biggest thing that I told Shannon a lot is when we do true crime, I just want to, present it in a way that we're being respectful to the family members, respectful to the victims. We're not glorifying these people,
not at all,
that we're putting most of the majority of the focus on these victims and all of that,
and just kind of delivering the facts. But it is a whole different conversation. Like when we're in the car, we have so much fun talking about cases and hearing it and just going back and forth, and it's not that we're being disrespectful, but it's just it's more of a free spoken type of like, hey, did you?
It's not reading
news?
from a
This
script and reading facts.
Yeah. So today we wanted to bring it to you where we just, what? If we get it wrong, we get it wrong. Let us know. But we're not stating it as facts. We're just stating it like, hey, this case has been going on. There's some new things that have been coming up, and you know. And so Gina, have at it.
So we are going to talk about today the case of Scott and Laci Peterson.
Yes.
Which I'm sure, it happened here in Modesto, California. So
how many years ago? I don't even
like early
like we said, we don't need the exact years, but it's been about 20 years, right?
2002.
Yeah.
So 2002, so 20 something years ago. But this is like a really like high profile case.
It was terrible.
And there's a lot of cases like this, then in the beginning, I didn't really want to cover because I'm like, everybody's done it. You don't want to do Manson. What are you going to do? Sit there and just read like, there's certain ones that have had TV movies made for them and, all of that stuff. But when I look at things like, sometimes this is what people are searching and looking for too. Are these well-known cases,
and new things happen and come up.
Yes,
like there's appeal cases. They go back to court. There's all these little things that come up on these cases. New facts are found. New evidence comes forward.
And so with this one, there's been a lot of talk lately about, Scott Peterson coming up for parole. He just came up for parole recently, but
too soon if he did do it.
If, in the beginning, I'm just going to say when this first happened, I remember when this happened, I remember hearing about it on the news, and I remember thinking immediately like,
because it happened around the holidays, right?
This guy, Christmas Eve. This guy is guilty. Like, no doubt about it, this guy is guilty. And then, things started coming out like about Amber Fry, his girlfriend that he had on the side.
Oh, that's right. I remember. But that, to me, that made him more guilty. But no, not for you? Or
no, because here's the thing. Like, he can be a cheater, but does that make him a murderer?
No, not necessarily.
I mean, that doesn't make him like a great guy. Yeah. But at the same time, that doesn't mean, how many cheaters are there walking around right now? True. I'm sure they're not out killing people. So it's like, you have to kind of pick things apart. And I think with this case, what happened was not enough things were picked apart. Yeah. There was a lot of evidence that was just left that wasn't.
They only chose the evidence that pointed towards who they wanted.
Towards him being guilty.
Yeah, who they wanted.
And, I'm going to go through, I have like printed up like a timeline of things that I'm going to go through just in case somebody isn't familiar with the case.
But this isn't the first time that an investigation tries to gear towards, it's very biased. It's gearing towards who they want.
Of course.
The path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And biased reporting by the news and things like that. But
yeah. And
I'm interested in hearing this because to me, I'm like, he's guilty, but
yeah. And I felt like that originally, but the more that you hear things that were not investigated and that were just kind of like pushed off to the side, swept under the rug, it's like, hold on. Like, for instance, there was a robbery that took place across the street from their house.
I vaguely remember
that day.
And I had asked you about that with the one with the white van.
Yeah. And, you know, that was never really looked into.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of his stuff, like, I'm not going to say, so there are a lot of shady things that this guy did. Yeah. A lot of shady things. Number one, yes, he was having an affair. Number two, when all these people are out, you know, in a search party, they're having a candlelight vigil, they're doing all this stuff. There's hundreds of thousands of people searching for this woman who's pregnant.
Yes.
And pregnant. And he's just kind of off in the background. And there's a lot of pictures, and I'll try to find the picture and put it in right here, because there's a couple pictures of him from this, you know, this candlelight vigil thing that were taken of him, and he has a smile on his face. But in an interview that I saw with, I believe it was either his sister or his sister-in-law, she was saying, you know, they caught him at a moment when he was having a conversation with somebody. And if you look at the lady that he's talking to, she has a smile on her face. And I think it's just, you know, no, he wasn't sitting there sobbing. He wasn't crying. But I think the camera caught him at a time where he looked like he had like a smirk or a smile on his face. And they took that photo and they ran with it.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Bias reporting.
He's at the vigil. He's laughing. He's smirking. You know, he's having fun with all this.
I do have to say, when you're grieving, it shows up in different ways.
Of course.
Because I have to say, like, even at my brother's remembrance, like, we had times where we were smiling and laughing,
of course,
and remembering,
and that's, you know,
it's different because that didn't happen. Like, he's not missing.
Exactly.
But like I said, like, people, like,
everyone grieves differently.
Yeah. And sometimes a cry could look like a smile. It just depends.
But what if
on how your
somebody
face
just
goes,
walked
so just
up
a
to you
snap.
and was just like, "Hey, Shannon, you know, like," and you
Say,
smile
"Oh,
back,
hi.
like, "Oh, hi, thank you for
Thanks
coming."
for coming. Yeah.
Snap, you take a picture. Oh, look at him. He's got a smirk on his face. So, there are a lot of those instances. I will say there are a lot of shady things that did take place, like the fact that he changed his appearance. He dyed his hair. He did all of that stuff.
What about DNA? You're probably more familiar with this case than I am. When they found her body.
Well, here's the thing. He
is her husband.
He was in the yes, and she was in the water. Yeah. Her body was in the water. But they found because they searched his boat. And they found a piece of her hair on something. I don't know if it was an anchor or something that was in the boat. A piece of her hair was found. And I don't know if she had ever been to the storage where he kept her boat. But even if she hadn't, when you live with somebody, you pick up their hair, especially women with long hair. Yeah. You know, your hair goes everywhere. So I'm sure everybody that lives in my house has a piece of my hair stuck to their jacket or their
I'm sure I leave here with it every single time.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't a strand of her hair be on something like that? You know what I mean? Does that mean, and this is what I'm talking about, like, and I don't know if anybody here has ever served on a jury, if anybody's ever done jury duty before. And probably about 20 years ago, I was called to jury duty, and I was at the criminal court building in downtown LA.
Your dream.
I was in heaven, and I got on a case. And that's when it all kind of made sense to me when they say, like, beyond a reasonable doubt, because if you don't really like know what that means, it's how many people are in prison. Like it's hard for some people to convict. Like you're going to convict somebody of murder
on an assumption.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any inkling of a doubt that maybe he couldn't have done this?
Okay.
I feel like there are quite a few things.
Yeah. What stacked up against him? Was there any physical evidence besides like assuming that like something that's
let
silly?
me go through the timeline.
Yeah.
And then
share that
so we can see. Yeah. So this is his account of and this stuff has checked out. So on December 23rd, 2002, Scott said that he and Laci went to a salon where Laci's sister Amy Rocha worked and that Amy gave him a haircut. So Amy confirms that, that's true. 8:30 p.m., Laci spoke with her mother, Sharon, on the phone, confirmed their Christmas Eve dinner plans at her mom's house the next day. Between 8:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m., Scott said that after Sharon's phone call, they continued watching football. They watched a movie called The Rookie, and Scott estimated that they went to bed around 10:30, and Laci was wearing blue pajama bottoms to bed that belonged to him, which Amy, Laci's sister, later identified the pants and the blouse that Laci was wearing. She identified them. They were put in the hamper. So she was not found wearing those
clothes she went to bed in.
So on Christmas Eve, December 24th, between 7 a.m. and 8:39 a.m., Scott estimated that Laci woke up about 7 in the morning. She got dressed. She placed the blue pajama bottoms in the hamper, and that's where they were found. Scott said that she ate right when she got up to avoid feeling sick, because remember, she's pregnant. Laci's mom confirmed this to be true. Scott said that Laci had eaten a bowl of cereal by the time that he had woke up around 8 or 8:30. So she sounds like she's eating like pretty consistently. She ate a piece of toast while he ate cereal. And then between 8:40 and 8:45, Laci logged into their computer. They kind of went over, she visited like a couple shops, whatever. And then by 8:45, she was done. Between 8:46 and 9:47, they did, Scott got dressed. Laci told him her plans for the day. She was going to walk the dog, go to the store, and make cookies. Now, if you remember, their dog was found.
Yes.
So Laci's was not, she was reported missing, but their dog was found. So their dog was returned by somebody, placed in their backyard, and still she was walking him.
Oh, okay.
She had taken the dog for a walk.
Okay.
And never came back. But to me, I just feel like if you can prove that she was still alive when he was at the marina, he's innocent. Yeah. He's not guilty.
So is there proof of that?
No, there's no proof of that. And they have like, a play-by-play of everything. And it's, I don't know. I feel like everything was picked apart, like literally down to like what they were watching, what they talked about, and in these interviews. And I feel like it's so easy for people to like sit back at home and point fingers. But like, if you're in this situation, everybody's going to act differently, but like, you cannot sit here and judge people for how they're acting. But he left his warehouse to go to the Berkeley Marina. And he was gone from like 11:15 till like 1:00. And he has all, he has his, ticket that he paid to dock the boat and blah, blah, blah. He has all this stuff or whatever. Okay. So between 9:49 and 10:30, Scott said that when he left out the side doors for work, Laci was mopping the floor. He gave various estimates for when he left home, all falling between 9:30 and 10:30. He made a 9-minute drive to his warehouse, checking the voicemail on his cell phone at 10:08. He parked at his office, entered through the pedestrian door. Between 10:30 and 11, he told police that he checked his email. He sent one email to his boss that had left him an earlier voicemail. Computer forensics showed Scott continuously logged onto his work computer for 26 minutes between that time, 10:30 and 10:56. He checked his email. He sent email. He looked up instructions on how to assemble a woodworking tool that he had just received via UPS. Between 10:57 and 11:17, there's approximately 20 minutes from when Scott logged off his computer to when he left the warehouse. Scott said during this time, he cleaned up his office a bit, began assembling the tool. He opened the roll-up door to the warehouse, unloaded some tools in the toolbox in the bed of his truck. While doing so, he cut his knuckle on the toolbox because there was a drop of blood found in his truck.
Oh, okay.
He then opened the driver's side door of his truck to get a napkin, and he thought maybe this is when the blood was, that's how the blood got there. To support Scott's statements, evidence showed that Scott had just received the tool on December 20th, and it was found assembled on his trailer in his warehouse. So it also says there's no room, please note, there's no room in the warehouse for Scott to pull his truck in and close the warehouse door. So if he can carry out, for him to
Carry out the body,
do any criminal activity, we'll say, his truck couldn't be put in there where he wouldn't be not in plain sight.
Yeah.
So if Scott had murdered Laci, he would have been transferring her body from his truck to the boat in broad daylight at his office complex.
If he were to move a body, he would have to do it in plain sight at his office. What balls would a man have to have
during the day
to do it during the day and nobody saw it?
Yeah, I mean,
how busy is it where he works? How many people go by?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's
obviously that's a pretty strong alibi if you have no way of moving a body at that point.
Right. So it was said, Scott said that he felt that it was too cold to go golf, so he decided to head to the Berkeley Marina to try out his new fishing boat. He backed up his truck, hooked up the boat, pulled it out of the warehouse. He closed the roll-up door, went inside, and exited back through the office. He left the warehouse at 11:18 to drive to the Berkeley Marina. He thought it took him an hour and a half to get there, maybe a little longer because he was pulling his trailer. Everything, and again, this is his account, but there's a lot of stuff, all this stuff checks out that he's doing.
Well, it's easy to find out if it's true.
He purchased a boat launch ticket at 12:54. He gave them the receipt. He then launched his boat. So between 12:55 and 2:11 p.m., he told police that he motored north for probably 2 miles. He was there. He, I guess he fished. He got some things from his tackle box. He trolled a little bit. He goes on to basically...
He has a lot of details about where he was.
He has a lot of details. When on his way back, he calls. He leaves him a voicemail. He called Laci on her cell phone. He leaves her a message, and there's actually a recording of the message.
Hey, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get this message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit, sweetie. Love you. Bye.
End of message.
He pulled over for gas, and called Laci again. Bank records show that this purchase was at 3:25. He makes another call to Laci's cell phone at 3:52. It's a 48-minute drive from the Chevron to his warehouse. He arrives back at his warehouse around 4:15. He arrives home between 4:30 and 4:45. He entered through the side gate where he finds their dog, Mackenzie, with his leash still on. The dog still has a leash. Scott removes the leash and puts it on the patio table. It was discovered that later that night that the next door neighbor, Karen Service, had found Mackenzie in the street with his leash on and put him back in Scott and Laci's yard. So the neighbor just found the dog wandering around with the leash on. So he entered the home. The dogs and cats ran into the house. He emptied the mop bucket because it looked like one of the cats might drink out of it. So they're saying like
the mop bucket was still there.
So they're saying like, why is he, excuse me, why is he cleaning stuff? He poured the water out near the front walkway, placed the bucket and the mops in there. He got mail while outside. Laci's car was in the driveway, but Laci was not home. Scott assumed that Sharon had picked up Laci and that she was at her mom's house preparing for Christmas Eve dinner. Scott said that his clothes were a bit wet, so he undressed and put them into the washer. He first removed the dirty cleaning rags from the washer and that the housekeeper had left from the day before. He added soap and started the washer. He said that he did this often when he got home because he works with a lot of chemicals. So he's saying that that wasn't anything out of the ordinary, like, because of course they're going to say like, you get home, you take your clothes off and you wash them right away. Yeah. That's a little suspicious, but he says because of the nature of his work. Scott and Laci's home had no garage, supporting that there was nowhere to put the soiled clothing. So their washer and dryer were inside their home. He said that he then took a pizza box out of the refrigerator, poured a glass of milk, headed to the shower with a piece of pizza in his hand. The officers testified to the pizza box being on the counter when they arrived at the home Christmas Eve night. He got in the shower. He went back to the kitchen. He listened to the phone messages. He listened to the message he left Laci when leaving the marina, because remember, he calls home. Yeah. Then listened to a message left by Laci's stepfather. Ron asked if Scott and Laci would bring whipped cream when they came over. This is what prompted Scott to call Ron and Sharon's home, which is Laci's stepfather and her mother, since he assumed that Laci was already there. This call happened at 5:17 p.m. Scott asked if Laci is there. She was not. Scott told Sharon that Laci's car is in the driveway, but that she was not home. Sharon asked if Mackenzie was in the yard, and that is when Scott remembered that the leash was on the dog. At 5:18, at this point, the search for Laci began. So over the next half hour, Scott exchanged 2 more calls with Laci's mom and Ron. Scott began knocking on neighbors' doors, calling neighbors and friends, and headed to the park with Mackenzie. Sharon told Scott that they would be calling hospitals and they would check the park. Ron called 911 at 5:47 p.m. to report Laci missing.
So he didn't hesitate?
No, there's no hesitation. But what I did want to add was that when they dropped this bombshell at this, they had like a, the police came and did like a huge, a news thing, whatever. We're going to come on the news and we're going to, give you all this information. And nobody had any ideas what details they were going to talk about, what they were going to say. And then all of a sudden, bam, here's Amber Fry.
First of all, I want to thank you for your patience. We'd like to preface the news conference by requesting that you respect our willingness to inform the media to limited information that does not compromise the investigation. Ms. Amber Fry will make a brief statement and she will not answer any questions. Today, because of extensive efforts by some members of the media, Amber Fry was identified and contacted by reporters at her place of business. She notified the Modesto police and out of contact and her safety and privacy, she is prepared to give a statement and she will not accept any questions. Ms. Amber Fry.
Okay, first of all, I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002. I was introduced to him. I was told he was unmarried. Scott told me he was not married. We did have a romantic relationship. When I discovered he was involved in the Laci Peterson disappearance case, I immediately contacted the Modesto Police Department. Although I could have sold the photos of Scott and I to tabloids, I knew this was not the right thing to do. For fear of jeopardizing the case or the police investigation, I will not comment further. I am very sorry for Laci's family and the pain that this has caused them. And I pray for her safe return as well. I would appreciate to my friends and acquaintances to refrain from talking about me to the media for profit or recognition. I am a single mother of a 23-month-old child, and I ask to respect my privacy. Thank you.
Then it comes out that he's been having an affair, because in the beginning, Laci's parents were hell-bent on the fact that he didn't do this. They were on Scott's side 100%. But then I think once this whole Amber Fry thing came out, they were like, hold on a second. But then Amber Fry, she agreed to work with the cops, and she agreed to have their phone calls recorded, her phone calls with Scott. And which during all of this time, I'm not saying he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But during this time, he's saying that he's in Europe, I think he said. Oh, or I don't know where he says, like, oh, I'm at the Eiffel Tower.
Right. He wasn't sharing with her what was going on.
No.
And she doesn't watch the news.
And he was saying that he lost his wife, and like, he was just making all this stuff up, which doesn't make him look good. Like,
yeah.
And again, I go back and forth, because who could be going through all of this
while worrying about maintaining a relationship with their mistress?
But regardless, he goes fishing a good
distance,
an hour to an hour and a half away from his home. Okay.
Modesto to San Francisco.
Right.
So that's Modesto's like Central California, and of
San
course
Francisco's
Frisco's on the bay.
On
the coast.
So you figure he's going a ways away, and her body is found
that far away. That's a little fishy. No pun intended.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's again a case that I go back and forth on.
Yeah. No, definitely.
But it's I don't know. I feel like there's, again, like to give somebody life in prison for something that you're not 100%
you're going back to that
convinced. Yeah. I mean,
reasonable doubt.
Yeah. I feel like as soon as it came out that he was having an affair is when everybody was like, oh my God. I mean, automatically, if a woman goes missing, it's automatically the husband. The husband did it. He's always a first suspect. He's always a person of interest. But
I didn't know this, that the fetus was found before Laci.
Yes,
and
Connor.
They were found
His name's Connor.
Connor, and they were found apart from each other.
Yeah.
So he was out of the body.
Yes.
So did she give birth?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Was it pushed out or?
I'm assuming so. It wasn't like nothing morbid happened where like they cut the baby out or something.
So was
like
she still alive?
Who?
Laci to give birth?
I don't think she like gave birth. I think
it just
she
got expelled
I
out
think
of her
it just
body.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, he was found first.
That's sad.
And it just goes like things like this just go to show you that, you know, especially in the days now that we live in, like with social media and everything, people's lives can look so wonderful. And you look at pictures of them and they look like the happiest couple. You see videos of them and who would ever know? Like,
I always say that people don't post. Most people, I don't want to say everyone, but most people don't post when they're going through a tough time.
yeah,
They're only going to post what they want you to see,
Yeah.
what they believe, this fantasy
Yeah.
of their life. So that's why I think it's so detrimental to children and teenagers,
Oh, of
social
course.
media, because their experience, let's say they experience pain or the parents are fighting in the other room and they're scrolling through their Instagram and they see their friends with their parents at Chuck E. Cheese having a good time,
yeah,
you know, and, you know, just to compare
Yeah,
your life to
of course.
others, you got to put it in perspective. So
100%.
we didn't have that growing up.
No.
When we went out, we didn't have to compare our lives to anybody else.
No.
We were just having fun in the moment.
No, I didn't care what
think-
my friends
yeah.
were doing. You
Thank
know,
you.
we were just living in the moment. That's
I
all you
think
did.
That's why depression's up. And
Of course.
a lot of mental illness and a lot
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
yeah, it's just-
100%. Yeah, I don't know. You know, this is a case where I feel like it would be really, really hard to be on this jury.
Yeah,
It would be really, really hard to when you see and it's hard too because how much of this stuff was not presented at the trial. Like, you know, like a lot of this stuff is like held back. They're not allowed to present it but a lot of that makes a big deal.
Yeah, no, you have to have, I was going to say, imagine me like already right now, just with you presenting it, all the questions I have, imagine me sitting on a jury.
Yeah.
I think they would kick me out. I think I would have so many questions. And then
It's
when I go
hard.
back into the room and have to debate it,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I would drive people crazy because I have to have every single detail. And if you can't fill in that little bit of time frame for me, I'm already doubting it. I'm like,
Yeah.
fill it in for me, you know?
Yeah. And you know, the sad part, you know, I feel like there's so many cases like this too. Like, you know, obviously like JonBenet Ramsey.
Oh my goodness. That's another one that
And then
never will be solved.
Kaylee Anthony and Casey Anthony.
Oh, Kaylee and yes.
You know,
that one's heartbreaking. That one I kind of go back and forth on too. Sometimes when I hear some of it, you know, did she do it? Did she not
that
do
one
it?
I
You know, it's
feel
just-
like she's guilty. That one I do feel like she is guilty.
I don't know. Maybe it's part of me as a mom thinking like, how can a mom do this to their child and then just go out partying? Like, I don't know, but it just takes a special type of woman to do something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of that stuff too, again, was taken out of context.
Yeah.
The pictures that were taken, like so much of that stuff, like, you know, again, like we were talking about a little bit ago about the pictures, I feel like a lot of those pictures that were taken of her were taken,
yeah,
you know, at different periods in her life, before, you know, Kaylee was murdered. So
yeah.
again, but I do feel like she.
Well, that's the one where they had the smell in the back of our trunk and everything.
Oh,
The
yeah.
parents can smell
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
And
okay,
it's- I
I'm
mean,
with you on
yeah.
that one then. Yeah, some
Yeah.
of these things have to come back to my brain, to the front.
Yeah, so that
But
one, maybe that's
definitely.
another one we can shoot the shit on, but
Yeah.
I just with this one, it's just
Food for thought.
yeah, I don't know, it's just a lot. There's so much to it, and if we actually broke down every single thing from start to finish, we'd probably be here for 6 episodes. But I'm just curious, you know, like I've said before, there's a lot of good armchair detectives out there,
Yes.
and you know,
Investigate it yourself.
people have their own theories of what happened and what didn't happen and whatever. I would love to hear from you guys to know.
And it's really hard without having all the boxes and case files that the investigators have.
Oh, yeah, of course. They
we
can
don't
just
have the
go back and
opportunity.
look at something, and
Yeah.
and
all the information's there on what they went on and how they based it off of. And we
Yeah.
weren't on the jury to hear everything. So
yeah.
part of you wants to trust the judicial system, but we know that it's failed many a times.
Oh, of course.
But
Absolutely.
I would love to hear people's opinions on this.
Yeah.
one,
So
too.
please, let us know if you like this. We'll do more of these on, these bigger cases that are just kind of floating around out there that people are more aware of. And we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad.
Yeah. If you would like to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, we are at 50 States of Madness. We are on YouTube, obviously. So if you're just listening to us on our
over there.
podcast, head over to YouTube.
We put lots of pictures and stuff up. So.
Yeah. And if you would like to support us, we are at patreon.com/50 States of Madness. Thank you to all of our Patreons. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we will be back next week.
Thank you so much. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
Bye.
Bye.